Let's come to order. Let's come to order. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you here this morning. If you would, please silence your cell phones or either turn them off. At this time, we'd have the invocation and pledge. Would you please rise?
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this time that we can come together as citizens of Walton County and conduct the business of this great county. At this season, we'd like to thank you for the pilgrims that came before us that had the vision to have a country where men could be free. We thank you for the many blessings that we share every day from your bounty. We pray that you will protect those that serve and protect our country, whether they're here at home or overseas, and guide us in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is the additions and deletions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 3 additions that staff would recommend the board take action on. The first is the decision of whether of the construction material for the pier at the park under the Clyde Wells Bridge. It was brought to our attention that it has been designed as a concrete pier, so we're going to recommend that we just allow that to move forward and not make a decision on that today. So we're asking that be removed from the agenda. The roads that were listed under Public Works that we were considering taking into county maintenance, we've got some more work to do on those, so we're asking those to be removed. We're asking to cancel the public hearing and remove it from the agenda regarding the transfer of funds for the Big Redfish Bridge project. We have another item on the agenda that will sufficiently fund that project until we know what the actual costs are going to be, and we'll explain that a little better when we get to that item on the agenda. But the staff's recommendation that we remove item 1E, 2A, and under public hearings 1 from the board's agenda today.
Any questions?
Motion to approve the additions and deletions?
Second.
Now, motion and second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next time, we're going to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Have motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any public comments regarding the agenda? Next item on the is reorganization of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Chapman to serve as the chair.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item is the vice chair.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Meadows for vice chair.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Next item on.
We're going to do this at the end. Yeah, we'll say that. Just go ahead.
Next item is to approve the consent agenda. Your motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our first item is a request from the city of Defuniak Springs. There is a possibility that the city will acquire the old Piggly Wiggly building as we know it here in town, and a probation office for some expansion of or relocation of some of their properties. Their request is that the board, if in the event that does occur, that we waive the dump fees or the tip fees for the demolition material that would come from that site. It would be staff's recommendation that if you do that we ask them for some credit toward any future tap fees or such that we may have from the city as a condition of granting that request.
Any questions?
Yes. A number of years ago when Herman Walker was the chairman of the board, He led some people into looking at the county acquiring that, and one of the concerns was the possibility of asbestos in there. I don't know if they ever determined that or not, but I'd like to make sure that if we do approve this, it excludes us taking any asbestos products.
Would you expand that to any other hazardous material that would need special disposal?
Okay.
Yeah.
At that time, that was the
Yeah,
only issue that
right.
came up. Okay, yes.
Do we know how much it's going to cost to demolish it?
I think the number I heard, and I saw the city manager here, is they were anticipating $1 per square foot for the, it's not just for this, they're not asking us to cover the cost of the demolition, just the disposal of that material. But I think it's probably in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $30,000 what the cost would be,
To dispose of it?
just to the tip fees for disposal. Ms. Bowers, is that, yeah. Yeah,
Then we'll pick up the 25 to 30,000.
actually, it'll just go to the landfill.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Let's just keep in mind that, in the past, we had asked the city for some leniency when we wanted tap fees going out to the jail, and those were refused. So let's make sure that in this particular instance that if we give some, then and later they give some as well.
Have they,
We'll put it in the bank.
have they agreed
I
to
agree.
give us those tap fees? I think if we approve this, we need to approve it in lieu of them
I think you
agreeing
can
to
make your approval conditional.
conditional
upon-
upon the tap fees.
Yeah,
And that we get
I'd
credits
like
on
to
tap
see
fees.
I'd like to
And
see the
their board
agreement
would
come
have
back.
to, their board would have to approve this.
Okay.
The city council.
Council, can we draft
Yes,
some
sir.
agreement that would reflect that for your consideration at the next meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to that effect?
Yes.
No, if you just give me direction
Yeah.
and draft an agreement, I'll bring it back to you
Okay.
the next
We're
meeting.
going to draft the agreement and then approve this. Okay. All right.
Okay. Commissioners, the next item is, we submitted in your package, and we had conversation with each of you regarding a proposal from the sheriff's office. We entered into some discussions with the sheriff's office some time back regarding the efficiencies and how we could make certain areas in our operation more efficient. One result of that was the Board of County Commissioners resuming the operations of the emergency management function, and that will occur the first of next month. In your package is a document that lays out the sheriff's position as to why the sheriff's office is in perhaps a better position than the BCC to operate the jail and the animal control facilities. We're certainly in a position that we can continue those services if that's the board's desire. There makes some very valid points in the document presented to you of the sheriff operating them. I believe we can all agree that both have been operated somewhat efficiently over the last several years, and there are no difficulties or problems there that we're trying to hand off to anyone other than looking at the most efficient means to deliver those services. So all we're asking today is that if you would wish that discussion to continue or so inclined on either of these instances, staff will work with the sheriff's office to bring back more definite information, a plan of transition, and a plan of action on either or both of these, or neither if it's at the board's discretion. Captain Schultz with the sheriff's office is here if you have any questions of him.
Any questions?
No questions other than a few comments. I'd like to see it in more detail than it is here, and I certainly want assurances that our present staff, who has apparently been doing an excellent job, we've gotten ratings, high ratings ever since Stan's been involved with that jail, and also Danny Glidewell as well. I want our employees protected, number one, especially animal control. I don't think anybody could do as good a job as Lois does. And number three, I remember whenever we had to take the jail from Sheriff Johnson, the enormous expense it was going through that and transitioning those employees and getting them new uniforms and that sort of thing. I would ask the sheriff if he can hold the budget, hold the line by, let's try to keep that to a minimum. Perhaps just get new patches rather than new uniforms, which would hold the budget. I think I'd like to see all those considered.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment too. I think that would be a good idea to have cost estimates of what it would actually cost to transfer all these employees. And also too, I'd like more transparency in the budget when the budget session rolls around. I'd like to see the line item budget versus just, categories. And I think if they're going to add 80, 90 more people to their budget roll, that's one of the things I think that I didn't really see last time was a lot of transparency in their budget.
Everybody good moving forward?
I am.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we will begin the discussion with the sheriff's office on both to bring back a much more definitive plan of action for your consideration and certainly take into account the things you've mentioned here this morning.
Also, too, thinking about it, it would be nice to have an organizational chart as to how this is going to work organizationally, the structure, who's going to manage whom, and that kind of thing.
Okay, all right.
Actually, I'd like one for the BCC as well. We've done so many shifting and changing lately. I would like to have a flow chart.
Okay. Okay. Captain Schultz, do you have any comments or good to go? Okay, thank you. Commissioners, the next item on the agenda is regarding the parking ordinance, the outdoor activity ordinance, and the business tax receipt ordinance. Having seen a lot of the activity that's revolved around these over the last weeks, perhaps months, it's staff's opinion that it would be best if the board would abate any of the activities scheduled for these three ordinances and let us vet them for their application, their effectiveness, and their enforceability. We believe they can be restructured to more definitively impact the specific issues, and in order to do that, we need to identify those specific issues and look at the actions we're requesting to positively impact and make those issues better for our citizens. So what we're requesting is that we take a 90-day reprieve from any action on either of these three ordinances, that you allow staff to do some research, and you've got a list of things there that we think are important, including commercial parking requirements and residential requirements, public parking facilities and plans, shuttle and tram systems, the integration of parking plans and shuttle systems, parking enforcement, outdoor activity regulations, permitting and enforcement, venue regulations and change of use, among others as we identify moving forward. But I think that if we look around in neighboring jurisdictions, we can probably find some folks that have dealt with these things and dealt with them effectively. And let us put a plan together that, understanding that these three issues pretty much dovetail together, and that as we move forward, we anticipate how one will impact the other, and we deal with that before we get too far down either of the three separate paths. As you're aware, AVCON is doing a parking study. Some of the things they will uncover in their study will certainly be beneficial in our process, that we will utilize them and work closely with them throughout this process, and those time frames are similar. They're looking at a March some time frame to have some of their data confirmed and pulled together. And we also believe that it's important to involve the business receipt tax in this process so that we're clear as to what impact one may have on the other. We anticipate there are a number of folks in the public, some organized, some not, that would like to have some input in this. We will certainly provide those opportunities. I don't believe we're at a point where we need to have public workshops because we simply don't have anything to workshop. So we'll encourage those folks to make contact with us, and we'll have some individual meetings as we move forward. But the idea is that at the end of this 90 days, we will have gathered information. We can put some clear direction into what we're trying to accomplish in these three activities, and at that point begin the public workshop process so we can move it forward into public hearings. So in a nutshell, we're just asking that you give us 90 days to do our due diligence on these three particular ordinances.
Well, I'll put that in form of a motion that we put up, whatever word you want to use, a moratorium on these issues until March 1st. giving staff time to do some research, and giving the public, this is, I think, a wonderful time for the different organizations, especially in South Walton, to come together as a unit and talk about things that affect all of them, whether you're a resident or you're a business owner. More than likely, if you're a business owner, you're a resident, and let them come together and maybe bring some of their suggestions to us. So that's my motion, that we put a moratorium till March the 1st.
I think the word moratorium is probably,
It's the wrong word.
I think it's probably the wrong word. I think we just put in abatement, as I think you said, abatement, put into
Make a motion,
abatement.
we have an abatement, okay?
I'll second for discussion purposes. One of the concerns I would have is that I know that we're talking about, well, we'll work with the public, we won't work with the public, but stakeholders are extremely important, all the stakeholders. And I'd like to make sure that if we do get involved where we're going out to talk to the public, that we make it at time frames when they're available.
Well, my anticipation, Commissioners, if they'll contact us or the admin office, we'll set up meetings with them. So we'll make it at their convenience.
Okay. And the second aspect of it is, and you talked about the relationship of the business tax, I'm still not clear exactly what we are trying to accomplish by this business tax. And so I think that we need to really focus in on, you're talking about how it's related. Well, let's talk about what are we trying to accomplish, and do we already have means in place to do this? We just haven't done it. So I go with my second, but I just want to make sure that we do allow all of the public that have an interest in this the opportunity to have their input.
And Commissioner, our anticipation is during this process, we certainly want to hear from them. And then at the appropriate time, we will begin a public workshop when we have some things that we need that are ready for workshops. So that would be our goal.
Yeah, and also in the planning, we've heard from the business community about them purchasing property adjacent to their property that we're not allowed to, have any parking. We need to look at all aspects, because some, business community, sometimes it gets tough to stay in business, and we need to make sure we don't put a burden on any business.
Amen.
And when you start putting burdens on them, it causes a lot of problems for them.
And I think that's part of what we hope to accomplish this is to look at the unintended consequences of what we may think are good things and make sure we weigh those into any recommendations we bring back to the board.
Yeah, also too, on this occupational license issue, we had a committee that, didn't they come up with a proposed ordinance? Are we going to use that ordinance that group headed up by, I think, the Chamber and Corey Godwin? Are we going to use that as kind of a starting point?
I would anticipate we use that as kind of the basis of, and because certainly they've done a lot of work,
'Cause I
and it's
think
been
there's a
good
lot of-
work.
yeah, I
And,
think there's a
not
lot
to
of-
set any of that aside,
Yeah.
but just to make sure as we move these other initiatives forward that it's all integrated and that, it all works together the best we can.
Well, my concern goes back to, and I know that we had an ordinance that started this and used as a basis, but again, what are we trying to accomplish? So we've got an ordinance that says one thing, and it's got some fee structures in there to do this kind of stuff. What are we trying to accomplish?
think-
And I think that.
Yeah,
that's all.
and I agree, but the ordinance should, at the very top, should state, the purpose of the ordinance.
Oh, it
I mean,
should.
When
you
we
know.
get to that point,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, I agree.
And that'll be part of what we're
Yeah.
looking at is,
Well, has Walton County ever had a business
No,
license?
that I'm aware of.
no.
I
City of
think
Funiac
Funiac
does, City
has.
of Freeport does, I
And I
think.
think Bay County, Okaloosa County, most counties in Florida have some kind of occupational.
We have.
I thought the original intent, I think when we started, Commissioner Meadows, was to know how many businesses we have and what
just
kind
wanted
they
to know.
are, and help with fire protection. I think somehow we've gotten, the meter has gone slightly astray on that, and I
Well,
certainly
I
think we
agree,
should.
I agree, because that was our initial purpose.
Yeah.
Now, if the group went off in a different direction, I think,
We need to,
we can certainly take a look at that, because, that was the original economic development. We have no idea who's
Yeah.
here and who's working here. The fire department doesn't have any idea if they're going into a restaurant fire or a,
And I've got some,
that
I've got
kind of thing.
concerns about
Yeah,
that too, but
yeah.
During this period of time, we can share our views, but I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that, let's not just say, let's start with the ordinance as the basis. Let's dig down, drill down through it, and
Yeah.
get what we need to do, and then go exactly as you say, make sure we
Yeah.
identify in the very first part of the ordinance
Yeah, it's the
what we're
purpose,
trying to
yeah.
accomplish.
The
Absolutely.
purpose of it is, yeah. And I think we can also say, too, what the purpose is not to do, too.
Right.
Our purpose is not to X, Y, Z, which I think, it's kind of gotten,
Things out over there.
you know, it's kind of gone further than I think we originally intended, so I agree.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
You don't
Second.
need a motion.
Did you second? He seconded it, okay.
Second it, Bill.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
We didn't ask for public input. Did we want public input or not?
I think anybody want to speak?
Not really. I mean, do we need?
Yeah, that's good.
Anyone want to speak? Did anyone want to speak on that last issue about the parking ordinance?
I just commend the commission for taking what I believe were.
Can you
Yeah.
your name,
We can barely
please?
hear you.
My name's Gary Shipman. I'm here speaking for the Walton County Small Business Association. I commend the commission for putting this abatement. I think everybody realizes there were problems with these ordinances and the way they were drafted. And we look forward to working with the county administrator and county attorney. We've already reached out and contacted other organizations and met with them. We've met with the sheriff. We met with the fire chief, and we're prepared to provide you with our input on what we think are the problems, the way the thing is drafted.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next item.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is regarding the park being constructed on the, under the Clyde Wells Bridge as part of the 331 expansion project. We have been requested, let's give those a moment. Excuse me.
Let me see. Kenneth, let me see what I got in here.
What you need, Bill?
He needs,
Yeah, man. What you need?
here's the coffee. What you want to Don't you be getting sick. I hear half the county's got the flu. It's like, cough in Cindy's direction. No cough in mine. I got hometown Christmas music.
To name the park being constructed on the south end of the Clyde Wells Bridge as part of the DOT expansion project of US 331. And so we need to take action today, or you can take that under consideration, but it's something we need to move forward with.
Well, I think it makes logical sense. A number of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we named the little pier or on, I guess, the left side going down after Mr. Pilcher, who was warrant officer, Game and Fish Commission officer for many years, and really loved that bay. We're going to destroy it and for laning, so just to rename it after, yeah, that's going to be taken out, yeah.
The boat
As in
ramp.
taken out. Not destroy the boat, destroy the pier. So it makes logical sense just to rename the new one after the one that we destroyed, in my opinion. I'll make that a motion.
So what would be the name?
I think it's Thomas Bill.
Thomas G.
Pilcher.
Pilcher,
Park or
Thomas Pilcher Bayfield Park.
What is Bayfield?
Bayfield's the one on the other side with all the picnic tables.
I think you ought to just say Thomas
Pilcher
Pilcher Park.
Yeah,
good.
leave
'Cause I-
Bayfield
I-
out, yeah.
And then people will call it Pilcher
Because I've never
Park.
understood why that was named Bayfield anyway.
People will call it.
I guess somebody knows, but
You got a motion?
I like that. No, Commissioner Infeld has a really good idea.
Just, we got it. You second it? Okay. Okay. Have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
why was it named Bayfield?
That it?
uh,
They help
no,
Public
sir.
Works?
The next item was removed. The next item was removed.
That's on the
The,
agenda.
under Public Works, item B, we have a substantial amount of dollars left that have been obligated to the 395-30A project. So we're requesting that we deobligate $546,808 from that project and obligate it to the Big Redfish Bridge project. That won't be sufficient to cover the project, but the reason we asked for the public hearing that was later in the meeting to move funds out of some reserve accounts to be held off is that it's going to be some time before we're able to bid this project. So we felt it would be prudent to bid it out and then know how many more dollars we need to complete it. And at that point, we can make whatever adjustments we need or move monies around. But this will be certainly sufficient to cover the design and engineering and planning for the bridge so we can get it to the point where we can put it out for bids.
My comment on that would be that those are proportional fair share funds. Those were specifically charged to and paid for by the developer of a project at the intersection of County Road 38 and 395. I would rather see these funds come from the landfill account rather than tap the proportional fair share funds that we know County Road 38 needs to be resurfaced in the next year or two. And we know that there are a lot of improvements that need to happen down there. I would rather see that come out of the solid waste fund, which is where we got the Mossy Head infrastructure funds from. I just don't like the idea of tapping our proportional fair share funds when, money is for these improvements is so scarce. So, my alternate motion would be that we take the 546 from the landfill account and leave the proportional fair share for 30A projects like it was. And I know Redfish Bridge is one of those projects, but Redfish Bridge is nowhere near where these proportional fair share funds were paid to improve.
If I could make a suggestion, is to deobligate these funds from the 395-30A project because we don't need them there anymore.
Okay.
And then let's determine how much we need for the design and planning phases of the Big Redfish Bridge.
Okay.
And come back with a more definitive number.
Okay.
And then determine if you want to come from landfill count or where we want it to come from.
Okay, so the 546 would go back into just the general 30A proportional fair share account.
Right.
Because there's different ones. Okay.
Wanda, does that,
That's my motion then,
Okay,
that
let's
we
get-
deobligate it, put it back in the,
wherever it came from?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And then we will have staff determine what we think the approximate cost of the planning and design engineering of the bridge will be, and we'll get those costs covered through whatever means the board
Well,
chooses.
it actually came from the 395-30A, I think, account. I think that it actually came from.
It may be, but Wanda she'll make sure it gets back where it came from.
It came from the 38.
Okay.
30A, so it goes
Okay.
back in the
Yeah.
30A account,
All right.
okay.
And
Yeah.
and then we can determine where those funds we need for the design and engineering, and when we get it bid and we know what the construction cost is, we can make those determinations.
yeah.
Does that work?
That works, but once again, I don't think it's equitable to take funds out of the solid waste to do Mossy Head and then to take funds out of 30A proportional fair share account to do things that it wasn't it to be.
There's no Mossy Head proportional fair share funds. That's the problem.
Well, I realize that, but it's still, that's only because we've had all the development in South Walton and all the infrastructure in South Walton is falling apart. So that's my point on that.
Okay. So staff would ask for a motion to deobligate the 546-808 from the 395-30A account and return it to the 30A prop share account.
So moved.
Have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. And so we will bring back some recommendations in the near future as to how to cover the cost of the design and engineering.
Wayne doing this?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Next item, Commissioners, under planning, we've had some discussions individually and some among staff about sandwich board signs, the small signs along Scenic 30A and/or Scenic Gulf Drive. If the board is inclined to do so, to look at some recommendations that would allow those on a limited basis, staff will bring you back some language. If not, we're good with that as well. But just following up on some discussions we've had individually, recognizing there may be some interest in staff looking into that. So,
Yeah, my comment would be definitely, and I wish all those people had not left, because this is an issue that affects small businesses, and we are, and District 5 gets most of the calls. Right now, sandwich boards are not, are prohibited. Some of them get removed and some of them don't, so we've had a lot of stir up about it. We'd like to help the small businesses, so we would like to put some kind of language in the ordinance where, these sandwich board signs could be allowed. So do we need a motion on this?
if you would.
I agree with Commissioner Meadows. I get a number of calls as well, especially
in district,
my
yeah.
district is, and I look at them. If you go places like Key West or you go to New Orleans, you go to places like that. That's how small businesses advertise in these,
Right.
and I think it's appropriate for us to take a look at it.
Right, and I totally agree. So my motion would be that we ask staff to come up with some language
Yeah.
I'll
that we
second
can
the motion.
review.
Have a motion, second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That it? Mr. Bagby?
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. First item that we have on the agenda is a reschedule of a previously scheduled public workshop with respect to the South Walton Sports Complex. We'd like to reschedule it on Thursday, December the 19th at 5 p.m. in the Coastal Branch Library.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Yeah, there is a special topic in there that goes with that.
There is, we're going to bring in a company that will give us some prices for each of the different types of fields that we've asked to look at. So general sports fields, softball fields, baseball fields, and a skate park.
Motion.
And just another, go ahead, get your second, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a second.
Second. I first.
You made the motion.
I firsted. Okay. Somebody else second.
Okay.
We recognize there is a code board meeting at 6 o'clock that evening. We don't anticipate this to last more than an hour, so there shouldn't be any conflict between this meeting and the code board meeting.
Okay, we have a motion, second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, second item is basically memorializing what you have previously approved in the budget, the $150,000 for the second year installment of the Emerald Florida show. They've already done some of the filming, and this is just approving the final contract.
Any questions?
Can you tell me what benefit you think we've gotten off of this?
Actually, I think we've gotten a huge benefit, Commissioner. They came this past, the second iteration and did 9 restaurants in South Walton. And there will be some news coming out later this spring or in the early part of the spring. He is really committed to helping the Walton County identity and brand, not only through his show, but through some other ventures that he's going to participate in with our restaurateurs and some of our wine sales places. So I would say, if you want me to put a dollar amount on it, I would say they had previously talked about $250,000 to $300,000. I think it easily surpasses that with 9 segments in this coming year.
I just wanted, because there'd been a lot of controversy back and forth whenever this was first voted on and done, and I wanted to make sure that we were getting a benefit from it.
There was initially, I think you remember, and I believe the staff sat down with members of the ISP, Art Miller, and some of those folks at the direction, I believe, of the commission or a commissioner, and I think they convinced them that, yes, there was a return on the investment and a significant return on the investment.
Good. All right. Then I'll make the motion to approve the agreement.
Have a motion, second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The third item is during the renovation, we found some issues with the carpet up on the second floor. of the north wing, and we just asked to be able to replace that.
Any questions?
Motion to replace carpet.
Have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 4, all the bids that came in exceeded the budgeted amount. We'd ask that you allow us to go out, to reject all those bids and allow us to go out and rebid that project, the Grayton Beach Walkover.
Any questions?
Motion to reject bids and go out again.
Have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And only update we have, working with Mr. Davis and Mr. Atkinson, there seems to be a question as to what legally constitutes a bed tax collector. And there's been some allegation that the Church Development Council is out of compliance. We are researching that. We don't have a legal opinion yet, and we hope to bring that back to you probably at your next meeting,
Okay. Is that it?
subject to your questions.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you.
And Commissioners, on that line, we're also reviewing all of the land use boards as well, and we're going through each one of those and making sure, because some of those require certain types of occupational folks to be on them. So we're doing all that at one time, just so you know.
Mr. Davis?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Pridgeon. The first item I have is a request to hold an executive session on Tuesday, December 10th at 3 p.m. to discuss a settlement offer and litigation strategy in case number 11 CA 469.
So moved.
Second. Have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Will we be able to get a executive session to update us on our lawsuit with regards to BP?
Yes, sir. I made contact with Drake Martin, and we're trying to get a date that we can get everybody together.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. The next item is a request to approve or change or give me direction on a land swap and proportional fair share agreement with EBSCO for the purpose of acquiring some right-of-way at 30A and 395 for the intersection improvements previously approved.
Any questions?
Yeah, my question is, as part of the,
We got a motion. We need a second. Second for discussion.
okay, part of the agreement includes a violation of our ordinance, our land development code, whereas we only allow 4-foot fences along the front of a property, and they have shown, in this agreement, they have shown concrete walls or fences or what have you. You can see them on the plan. They have proposed, as part of the agreement, the ability to put in all of these 6-foot high masonry fences. And part of the land development code says 4 feet, and where it's south of 30A, where you have the view corridors, it's especially detailed. Whereas we're trying to not block off views for everybody, and that's what walls will do on 30A. And I'm afraid that if we approve this, then everybody who's on 30A will want a 6-foot wall in front of their house, and you will have a totally different environment down there. Because as you know, right now when you drive, you can see the ocean, you see the trees, and you see the things. So my recommendation would be to approve everything, but I think they ought to have to comply with the land development code on the fencing.
Yes, ma'am. If you want to approve it conditioned upon us renegotiating or
Yeah,
just
conditioned
saying that they'll
upon,
comply with it.
conditioned upon the fences following the land development code.
Yeah, or receive a variance if they apply for one, but yes, ma'am.
Yeah, or seek a variance, because they're 6-foot high. They could do 4-foot high, and they could move them back to where, they could move them off the right-of-way line and do something different, but that's my fear if we start going with that. So whoever made the motion, would you be willing to amend it?
Amend the motion
Yeah.
to apply with the land development code or apply for a variance.
Yeah, for the walls.
And let me say one other thing. This agreement's a little bit unusual in that normally we either vacate and abandon or deed property, but in looking at the title work that was done along the side, I think your title company is actually asking for and requiring both, which I don't have a problem with because it essentially does the same thing. So it's a little bit unusual, but that's what we're doing.
Hey, good morning. Jim Martelli with Interlight Engineering Corporation. Appreciate this coming before the board this morning. I represent EBSCO. Mr. Borbeck, who is also the counsel on the project, is out of town today, so I'm also here in his place. But Commissioner Meadows, I certainly appreciate a chance to talk about the screening fence. I believe the Land Development Code, addresses mixed-use areas. In particular, this intersection, I think we could all agree, is a pretty intense mixed-use area with, commercial and a restaurant across the street with us. And really the only goal for the fence was to provide just a little bit of light screening as well as sound screening from the intersection. That was really the more the intent of it than anything else. And we looked at the Land Development Code and also the Comprehensive Plan and felt like there was a opportunity there addressing this issue as a master plan, the entire intersection as a master plan, that the commissioners had the ability to approve through the Land Development Code, that ability was there to approve this request. It's an important request to us, and we certainly ask that you would allow us to do it. Now, there's a lot of driveways, obviously. The driveways would not have any gates or fences. It would only be between the driveways. And also, there's really no visual opportunity there to the Gulf, as it's heavily, heavily vegetated. And so anyway, I just wanted to kind of share that with the board. It is an important aspect to us. We simply wanted it just to provide a little bit of noise and screening on this really interesting intersection that is unique, a little more unique than just generally being on 30A. So thank you for letting me share that, and I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, and we agree with that, and the code says 4 feet. The issue is we have a lot of these very interesting intersections, and we have a lot of traffic on 30A, and people can make that same case everywhere along 30A that it's so noisy that we need. So you can go with 4 feet, but you can't go with 6. I mean, the code, 6 feet, is, in my opinion, is
Mr. Chairman, if I could just make a comment, I think you'll find that the only provision to set aside Land Development Code regulations is through a variance and Board of Adjustment. So, quite frankly, I would think that even if you approved it, that it doesn't have any teeth, because it would be a violation of the Land Development Code unless you're going to take action to amend the ordinance, which you're not doing. I don't think it's
No,
still
and I
got an
think
issue.
the issue, well, Mr.
Martelli.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Yeah, no
Martelli. What it's discussing was the possibility of making this like a small development order in that area, but I understand the commission's direction, and we
this
can
is
get together.
this is an exchange of right-of-way agreement, not a development order site plan thing. So what is your motion still the same, Ms.
Yes.
Commander? Okay.
And we'll get together and we'll
Thank you.
make sure everybody's.
And you seconded it?
You seconded
Yes,
it,
I
yes.
seconded it.
So,
Okay, good to go? You understand? Yes, go ahead, Mr.
Can we clarify that it's motioned and seconded
with the, yes,
4 foot?
yes.
Yeah, with the Land Development Code regulations that would apply.
Or they can apply for a variance.
Yeah, or they can apply
Land
for
Development Code.
variance.
They can apply for a variance, yeah.
Okay. Everybody good? Have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is, as you know, we are in the midst of an administrative trial with the Department of Juvenile Justice regarding reimbursement, we hope, for significant amounts of money that we overspent to house juveniles in Walton County. I would just want to let you know, A, where it is, and B, some stipulations that have been going back and forth. I provided to you in your packet a stipulation of facts that we have proposed that sets out the amount of money that we believe we were overpaid. We anticipate that every county that's involved in this action has, I think all but 2 now, have done this stipulation or approved this stipulation in one form or the other. we anticipate with this stipulation of facts, the trial shouldn't take very long because essentially we've all agreed to what the facts are before we go in and have the hearing before the administrative law judge. So you don't need to vote on this. This has been vetted by Neighbors Giblin, who's representing us, and so I feel confident that what we have presented to the DJ, to the administrative hearing officer, are solid, and hopefully we can have that trial fairly quickly and get a ruling and be done. The good news is, of course, the District Court of Appeal has already held that we've overpaid, so now we're just trying to get to the exact numbers.
Mark, did they settle on through this agreement the definition of predisposition or commitment when these fees stop?
Short answer, that's a good question, Commissioner. The short answer is maybe. We feel like the District Court of Appeal did that, frankly. And the DJJ may or may not be accepting that. We're still talking about that issue.
So when does it stop? At the time that the court rules, makes a disposition of the case, and that's when it stops?
Yes, sir.
Whether they're on probation or not?
That's
they're incarcerated if they can't get it. While they're on probation, does that mean that the county starts picking up that detention fee again, or is that the state once they're on probation?
The idea and the concept is we don't pick up a fee unless they're actually detained, physically actually.
Well, that'd be going almost back to the way the state of Florida was on their males, the adult. If they got on probation and subsequently rearrested, they wanted to try and charge the county for those fees too.
And that's not it should not happen in the future.
With juveniles?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Now, I say that, but whether I say that with a lot of confidence is another question altogether. But thank you. I just want to let you guys know where we are on that. The next item is, as you know, we have the SHIP program. Commissioner Imfeld has asked me to come up with a proposal for some policy.
You skipped one.
Oh, I'm
Roadside
sorry.
vending.
My bad. I'm asking you to hold a public hearing to consider a roadside fundraising events ordinance to be held on January 14th. I've provided the draft of the ordinance to you, and of course, we're always looking for comments or suggestions or changes. We'd like to have that public hearing on January 14th.
So moved.
Well, if you need it for discussion, I'll second it for discussion. Mr. Davis, I read through that document. There are several locations in here where the proper name of an entity is not correct.
Okay.
And you know how I am about the sheriff's office.
Yes, sir.
On page 3, section 432, section E, and also on page 4 under section 4-33, referred to as the sheriff's department. It should be the sheriff or office of the sheriff.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I had one comment where you said May 31st through September 1st. I said September 6th because sometimes Labor Day extends past September 1st.
Yes, we'll fix that.
That's my only comment.
Thank you, Commissioners. We need a vote.
Any other questions?
Is May 31st, by the same reasoning, I would move it back a week because Memorial Day is going to most often occur before May 31st, so I'd like to see it that we precede Memorial Day.
Say May 1st.
Memorial Day completely slipped my mind, unfortunately.
May 1st to September
15th.
15th.
How about Memorial Day to Labor Day?
There you go.
There we go.
I'll take care of it, no matter when it is.
Is that your motion?
That's
your motion?
Yes, I'm in my motion. Yes.
That's my second.
Okay. Everybody clear now? Have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next item is as I was discussing the SHIP loans, what I'm asking you to do, the only decision I'm asking you to make here is tell me, when we have a foreclosure, what percentage of the SHIP loan do you want me to agree to? And if you want to give it a range, or just tell me what you want to do, and I'll plug it into the next item, which is the ordinance itself or the resolution itself.
Well, if I can,
Resolutions
Mr. Chairman.
themselves. If you want to conclude a percentage, it's up to
Well,
you.
it sounds like from the previous 2 or 3 that we've had come before this board this year, that we kind of in a bad position. We're always the second on it, and we can either take what there's offered, or we can forget it and fight it, and we won't get anything. I don't know if the board is interested in looking at some type of, prorated, because after 5 years, this thing goes away, and maybe if you have a person that gets in there and they got 3 years in, maybe prorate that balance at $2,000 a year that would be paid back. But then again, it still goes back that if they don't want to do it, or we're second in line, we can either take what they want or forget it and lose it all. Now,
The only, just quickly, the only motivation a first mortgage holder has to pay us anything, frankly, is to save the time and money in serving us, the attorney fees for, foreclosing ours in addition or with theirs. But you're right, they have no motivation otherwise.
right, and the thing about it is $10,000 been given to whomever that's holding the mortgage. And then they got their money right from the get-go, and then when it comes time to these folks they lose it, then they still got their 10, plus they're going to get the house back too. So something's not quite exactly right there.
It's not always 10, but if we're going to do it, I mean, we should take a look and say, let's say it's a 5-year term for discussion purposes. So that's 60 months. If you're going to give credit, I would give credit for however number of months that they did make their payments. So let's say they did it for a year, so that's 12 months. So 12 sixtieths could be forgiven, but for when they stopped paying, I hate to give credit for that. And rather than just coming out and saying zero, I would say,
On an individual basis.
How you going to collect what's the balance that's due?
well, it's just,
Put a lien, you could put a lien on the house. I mean, they get the house back, put a lien on the house, just so that they, it tightens things up a bit, because it can be abused. The system can be abused.
What I tried to do, frankly, is see if there was a way to make our ship a first, and the person who, the federal law does not allow that, so.
but at least you'd have a standard guideline if you took it based upon the number of months that they actually paid
Yes, sir.
versus the total term of whether it was 5 years, 10 years, 4 years, whatever it turned out to be. But it'd give you the flexibility to give that, and that would be, in my opinion, the maximum that we would want to go as a forgiveness.
I will draft it that way if the board.
Yeah, I agree. And then, if people don't pay us, doesn't that go on the books as bad debt? Isn't it written down as bad debt?
It's written off.
Written off? Does that give us any kind of tax advantage or anything?
No.
Gives us nothing, yeah.
Gives us nothing. We get nothing.
Basically. When they can't pay, they can't pay.
You got direction?
Yes, I do, thank you. And so we will not need to address the next item until I come back with the next item, number 6. Number 7, Commissioners, is asking to approve the planning fee resolution.
Any questions?
Number 6 is ship local assistance.
He doesn't have to, he
No,
said he.
Yeah, we'll have to come back.
7,
Do
moving
time
right
together.
along, okay.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And the last one is to approve the Mossy Head wastewater fee schedule resolution.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Commissioner Meadows?
Yes, I'd like to request that the board approve the appointment of Ms. Debbie Hurd to the Coastal Dune Lake Advisory Board, and I'd also like to say that that we need more bodies on the board to help us roll out our plan, which is going to happen in January, and we're going to come to the board and roll out, the purpose and the mission statement and all that y'all ask for. But we need people on the board, obviously, to help work on that. So, and we've had a lot more interest in the Coastal Dune Lakes Advisory Board. We have a lot more attendance. So I would like to ask that we go ahead and appoint Debbie Hurd to that vacant position. Then we'll have a full board. And then we'll come before the commission in January and give y'all the explanation and that y'all asked for.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Second.
Have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Commissioner Commander?
Yes, actually, I'd like to go back to the consent agenda for just a minute. I'm sorry, I was a little distracted at the beginning of the meeting. This land we're letting the city annex in, of course, what advantage is that to us? I mean, or why are we doing that? It'd be nice. I mean,
There's some property, statute says that in order to annex property, it has to be contiguous with city. So we're basically buffering Louis Bear property and some other property that they're trying to annex in. So if they annex this small piece of our property, then it makes that property contiguous with city property, and the ability to annex it is much easier.
okay. And my second question was, on the consent agenda as well, there's a Ford Explorer being surplused. I believe I had spoken to you about the EDA perhaps getting one of our surplus vehicles. I think it would cut down greatly on his mileage expenses and that sort of thing. So could we look at maybe, if this is in running order, shifting it to the EDA?
We can put him in line for that vehicle.
Putting
right
him in
there,
line,
because
okay.
I don't think it's probably the one that anyone wants to spend a lot of time
Okay, but
traveling around on.
I understand from looking at the EDA's agenda and all, he spends a lot of time on the road and has to be reimbursed, and it's putting mileage on his vehicle and costing the EDA a sum. So I think as soon as we could maybe surplus him a vehicle, the better it would be.
How do we get around the fact that he's not an employee of the county and putting him in a county vehicle driving it?
No, we'd surplus it to the EDA.
Surplus it to them. Okay, thank you.
We'd surplus it to the EDA. So put him on the list, will you?
But to that end, once you do that, now they're going to have to buy automobile insurance and
Right.
those type of things too. So we certainly,
I was
we
approached
certainly
by him and asked. Is the
One of the-
reason I brought it up.
One of the things you've got to consider is you're taking a vehicle out of the assets of one particular fund and moving it to a different fund. You're going to have to reimburse the fund you're taking it from if you do that, because now you're putting it into a general fund use. So just be aware that there'll have to be some kind of reimbursement, unless it's a straight out where you auction it off and then they get the money for whatever the auction is.
Well, what I'm hearing from Mr. Jones, they're way far down on the list anyway.
I understand it, but you're now crossing fund lines, and that creates a different set of problems.
Question, Enfield?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to give a brief update about the situation at Beaver Lake. A couple of weeks ago, there was an article in the paper about the disappearance of the water from Beaver Lake, and they were looking for assistance from the county to help resolve the problem. Myself and Mr. Svela went out and did an extensive review of the area and documented the fact that it was, quite frankly, full of trash that had just been left there. But more importantly, we researched the records for going back to the plats, going back to the deeds, and it appears that there is no county involvement in this lake. While we have a park that's on the north side of the lake, there's been no county involvement in that. So therefore, the lake is private property. However, I would like the board's permission to allow our staff to work with the residents around the lake to help them apply for the necessary DEP permit for it, so that while we're not expending county funds on this, I'd at least like to be able to allow county staff to give them the guidance that they need in order to do a proper permit and hopefully restore their lake to their satisfaction.
Any questions?
So my motion is to allow county staff to work with private landowners to help them apply for the DEP permit.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chapman?
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything. Are there any public comments?
Good morning. J.B. Hillard from Funiac. On the item you passed earlier, the 90-day reprieve or whatever on the park ordinance and so forth, I just want to compliment the Board of County Commissioners on that decision. I think it was a right decision. Gives the public and all parties concerned, interested, an opportunity to be included in a transparent discussion, and we look forward to working with Mr. Jones and you folks. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave. Got to be somewhere.
So do you,
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Sandra Luchtfeld, just to add to JB's comments, I'd really like to see it in March, just ahead of our next season for the parking,
Thank you.
especially for residential.
Thank you. Go to Mr. Dice. Mr. Dice?
Good morning, Commissioners. We have 4 items on the agenda. The first item is a legislative item. It is a flood management ordinance. This item was continued from the November 7th meeting until this meeting. I'll ask Brian Underwood, one of our senior planners, to come up and give you a brief overview of the project of this ordinance.
Good morning. Brian Underwood, Planning and Development Services. As Wayne described, this is the proposed Walton County Floodplain Management Ordinance, an ordinance of the Walton County Board of County Commissioners amending the Walton County Land Development Code to repeal Section 4.05, to adopt a new Section 4.05, to designate a floodplain administrator, to adopt procedures and criteria for development in flood hazard areas, and for other purposes, to adopt local administrative and technical amendments to the Florida Building Code, providing for applicability, repealer, severability, and an effective date. We have received several public comments pertaining to the ordinance. We had received comments from Mr. Eddie Foster on July 29th. We have addressed his comments as included in Exhibit E of the staff report. We also received additional comments from Mr. Foster on February 12th, and those comments are attached as Exhibit G. I did want to provide some discussion and findings regarding the proposed ordinance. This proposed amendment to the Land Development Code will constitute the adoption of the standardized state model floodplain management ordinance, which has been developed by Florida Division of Emergency Management. The county has received a letter from Florida Division of Emergency Management expressing their support of the proposed ordinance. This ordinance specifically includes new references to the amended 2010 Florida Building Code, which sets construction standards for structures proposed for construction in special flood hazard areas. It is expected that the adoption of the ordinance will contribute to an acceptable rating through the FEMA National Flood Insurance Program and would allow the county to participate in the community rating system of FEMA. We don't expect any county property owners to be adversely affected by adoption of the ordinance, and we wanted to point out the ordinance will apply to construction standards exclusively, rather than to the review of any development orders or proposed plats. It's going to apply to construction sites and construction standards. Let's see, the ordinance was recommended for adoption by the Planning Commission during the public hearing on October 10th of this year, and there has been one minor text change to the ordinance that has occurred since the Planning Commission recommended approval, and that was the 5-year window for tracking substantial damage to structures has been changed to 10 years based on guidance from Florida Division of Emergency Management. We've also received correspondence from FEMA expressing their support on our progress for the proposed ordinance.
Any questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Chairman, if I could just add, too, that ordinance will help us, as you voted on earlier on the consent agenda, our participation in the CRS program. This will help us with our ratings, and those ratings will affect flood insurance premiums. It will actually help reduce flood insurance premiums. CRS will come in and do a site visit and look at all of our ordinances that we have that affect flood-related issues, and will help us. So we're excited to see that process take place. The savings are substantial in some cases, up to 20% on your premium, which is savings to the actual property owners and people who are developing the property, their homes, and so forth. So I want to thank you for that. Mr. Chairman, the next items are quasi-judicial, so I'm assuming they'll be sworn in.
Anyone who anticipates testifying as to any matter or regarding any matter on the quasi-judicial agenda, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you would give before this board will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. And when you come forward, just say your name and state that you were sworn. Any commissioner had any ex parte contacts regarding any matter before the board?
No.
See, 1 second. Hang on.
Yes, I did. I spoke. Do I need to disclose it or
Just say,
just figure it?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, I did speak to a representative from Avcon who is representing Eco Lead Homes on the abandonment.
Okay.
I did speak with one person.
And that would not prevent you from rendering a fair and impartial verdict. Okay. Does anyone have any objections to the form or the notice that was provided for any of the quasi-judicial hearings? Hearing none, it's all yours, Mr. Dice.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Chairman, the second item on our agenda is Echo Lead Homes, LLC, petition for abandonment. This is located on US 98 in South Walton. Tim Whaler, our senior planner, will present this case for you.
Good morning. Tim Whaler, Walton County Planning Department. This is the Eco Lead Homes petition for abandonment. It was submitted by Ward and Kitchersid. Consists of 0.112 acres of easement and right-of-way. The project is located on the south side of U.S. Highway 98, a quarter-mile east of the Scenic Gulf Drive. And based on the previous board meeting recommendation, staff was in contact with FDOT regarding any potential impacts from the future roadway project in the area. And based on the documentation they provided, this parcel is outside of the construction area for that project. And also we got a reiteration from the right-of-way department that they have no interest in the parcel at this time as well.
Any questions?
Did we also not approve an abandonment for a similarly situated parcel east of this back in December?
Yes, sir. In December, the parcel to the east on the other side of the Tango Mar driveway was approved.
Mr. Chairman, it was my request that it be tabled pending the receipt of the DOT, and I'm satisfied with the information that we have received from DOT as to their non-needing this area.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone here represent the applicant?
Hello, my name is Tanya Nation. I'm with AVCON, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have pertaining to this abandonment. I've got some just exhibits that are included in your packet, but they covered a lot of the things. So if you have any questions, please.
Any questions? Mr. Newfield, you good to go?
A motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Chairman, the third item on your agenda is the La Terraza replat. This is being, Brian Oda, our senior planner, is reviewing this project. It's basically 12 multifamily units, and we recommend approval. If there's any questions, Brian is here to answer any.
Yeah, I didn't get a copy of the plat, what it looks like. I know you've got the property in here, but I didn't see the plat.
I didn't include it. Shall I bring up the Mylar and let you look at it? Would that be
That
fine?
would be nice. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to see what we're doing. Replat for the plat.
Are we on the, yeah, okay.
Okay. Wanted to see what it was about. Is it a condominium plat? Is it a condominium plat, or,
It's townhome plat.
okay,
These are individual lots. There's a total of 12 individual lots.
okay. And then the rest of the area is common area?
Yes, ma'am.
And pool house and all that? Okay,
These parking areas
Yeah.
are also has a drive aisle that accesses properties to the north.
yeah. What is there right now?
It's a vacant lot.
Vacant?
They had started some development under the prior development order, but never finished.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve.
Have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, last item on the agenda is number 4, crossings at Inlet Beach, formerly known as Inlet Beach Commons. Tim Brown is the senior planner. I'll ask Tim to give a brief presentation on this.
Good morning, Tim Brown with Planning and Development. This is a request for a 17,335 square foot shopping center on the north side of US 98 in Inlet Beach. It has an underlying future land use of neighborhood infill and an Inlet Beach neighborhood plan overlay of neighborhood commercial. It will require a $74,130 proportionate fair share charge. They're proposing to buy out 0.31 acres of their preservation, pine scrub vegetation. The DRB approved a non-Munsell color deviation, as well as requiring along the north side of the access road, which they're calling Walton Palm Road, to be landscaped, because just north of that is residential, so they wanted to landscape that road next to the residential. So with the 4 conditions included in the staff report, that sums it up, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? Anyone here represent? Go ahead.
One quick question. Is this parcel looks like it's adjacent to what was the Dollar General?
It's down the street. There's one parcel between it and Wall Street, and then on the other side of Wall Street is where the donut hole's going. It's currently under construction.
Okay. Now, they are coming in off of 98 to the north. That's an entrance there, and
Yes,
also an exit.
it's a right-in only.
Right.
And a right-out, and then the access road, Walton Palm, will give them access to Wall Street.
So they either got to go all the way down to 30A and flip and go back to the east, or maneuver back up to this subdivision to get back off to the east, so they can go south to tie into 98.
Well, the access road takes them to Wall, and you can turn left from Wall.
I understand that.
Unlike the road where Dollar General, you can turn left or right onto Highway 98.
Right. Anybody complain about this project?
We've had no public comments at all.
Any other questions? Anyone like to speak?
Thank you.
Yeah, I did have a question. Where are y'all getting your water and sewer? Is this,
Good morning, Robert Carroll, McNeil Carroll Engineering. I'm the engineer of record and the agent.
Yeah.
Water and sewer are coming from Inlet Beach Utilities. We're putting in a grinder station.
Okay.
That ties into a manhole on Wall Street. And
Okay.
water we tie in up front on Highway 98.
okay, good. So, and you've gotten your Inlet Beach has agreed to provide the water and sewer, and you've gotten all that wrapped up? Okay. Okay, good.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
That's it.
What's the board's wishes?
Second.
Have a motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Commissioners,
Motion
just one
carries.
quick comment. The DRB and the Planning Commission both vetted the heck out of this project. I just want to let you know, because I've gone to those meetings now. They spend a considerable amount, especially the DRB, spend a considerable amount of time going through the details of this project, just so you know. They're doing a good job, and
Yeah.
what's the right word? Reviewing those ahead of time for you guys. So I just thought
Good.
you'd want to know that.
Good, I like that non-Munsell.
Mr. Sunday, we're clear direction on everything. Any questions? Okay.
appreciate your leadership this past year. See how it worked for me as a rookie still. Good luck. But again, on behalf of the board, we present you this plaque for your chairmanship during this past year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You want to take the plastic off?
All right. See, it's moving, so you still use it up there.
Smile, chap. It's been a pleasure to serve the board, and I am glad Mr. Chapman's got it. Maybe he can handle it. Good luck. And you'll have just keep yourself straight. And don't get sick as much as you've been being. All right, we will be adjourned.
I wrote you a note.